Yes.
Yeah. Hello, and welcome everyone to this week's edition of Anchor Watch. I'm your humble host, Bobby Jones, along with the producer extraordinaire, Sam Osterholt. And ladies and gentlemen, we have a show for you because despite me drinking a nice hot warm chai and trying to remain calm about the things that I am seeing around the world and in the United States, these people keep trying me. And I tell people, try Jesus, don't try me, because I don't have the patience. And so based on the things that have happened here in the last week, Sam, we got a lot to talk about. First of all, how are you doing? Let me be.
Thanks for asking, Bobby. I'm doing okay. Can I just tee off on one first thing? We're going to talk about Iran. We got to talk about Hegseth, which I'm kind of trying to hold you back right now because this is something that we're going to dive deep into, everyone. This is there's some crazy shit that's happening. But I want to just first get your take on this. I was born in the bicentennial, right? I was born in 76. And every picture of that year was like my brothers and sisters in star and stripes pajamas and shirts. And everyone, like, we were coming out of Vietnam. None of us felt good about it. It was a time to sort of remember who we were. And this year feels so empty. This is 250 years. This is a big fucking deal.
It should be.
And here we are.
Yeah, a couple of things. We get back in the Wayback Machine, 1976. That's literally 2 years before I was even here. But understand, historians have said the closest America has been to a fully functional democratic republic was 1976. By that time, you had the Civil Rights Act, the Voting Rights Act had taken hold. You had the beginnings of the effect of affirmative action, where women were in the workplace, minorities were getting into universities that were previously denied to them. Voter participation was at an all-time high because people were pissed in the aftermath of Watergate. Vietnam had ended, like you just said. So there was this restoration that was taking place. And then the Congress, this is very interesting too. The Congress in 1976 did a lot of things to force America to reflect on its history. For example, prior to 1976, there had been multiple generals, just using this example, that outranked George Washington. George Washington retired as a lieutenant general in the Revolutionary War, right? But after that, Jack Pershing, Dwight D. Eisenhower, all the five-star generals and admirals of World War II, all outranked General Washington. And Congress was like, that is unacceptable. So they passed a law, y'all can look it up, where George Washington became the most senior military officer in U.S. history and will always be so. He was named General of the Armies, plural. He's effectively a 6-star general. They did things like that to force the nation to look at its history and to say what it was, how they got there, and they didn't sugarcoat it. Fast forward 50 years, and we are looking at symbolically a White House that is literally in tatters, East Wing destroyed, this monstrosity of a UFC event backdrop, and people utterly disgusted. I don't think that's by coincidence. The 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence is something that is supposed to make us reflective and to highlight our commonality, to highlight the different patches of the tapestry that make America, America, in my opinion. What we are seeing is that tapestry has been cut up on purpose, and everybody's just trying to get their piece and trying to maintain. I think that the current administration realizes the only way that they can actually run the country in their minds is to be as divisive as possible, because unity means that they have to give of themselves and to give up something to others. And the person at the top is ill. He's just incapable of doing it. And so how leadership goes is how the rest of the world goes. And this is what we're seeing. And it's not just the United States. This is like a virus. The way the world is reallocating itself and dividing itself. Our 250th anniversary should have been a moment where the world looks at America and says, hey, that reminds us of why we went and became democracies, blah, blah, blah. Not even close. Not even close.
Instead, we have this.
That.
Yeah.
We can't even say that that's not even accurate because it's accurate, right? If you would have told me 5-6 years ago, hey, for the 250th anniversary of the United States of America, we're going to have this big, huge monstrosity and the East Wing is going to be destroyed, I'd have been like, what alternate timeline are we looking at?
Yeah.
But that's where we are, right?
It is, and it happens so quickly. And I think this is a good. I think it's there's a lot of reasons to talk about Iran, a lot, but that's one of them because it was a very quick self-own. It was a very quick self-injury, right? And so in the past few days, obviously Trump has been talking about we're moving at a rapid pace, right? Today he said he was bored. He was kind of getting a little bit bored with all of it. And he has also, if I can find this, that's not the one, this one. The reporting is pretty wild. He screamed at Netanyahu. What did he say? He called him fucking crazy.
Yes.
He's seeing what is he seeing right now?
He also said you would be in jail if not for me.
Yes. He
basically
said, you're fucking crazy. You'd be in prison if it weren't for me. Yep. I'm saving your ass. Everybody hates you now. Everybody hates Israel because of this. What the fuck are you doing?
Right. Well, I can tell you exactly what he's doing. He's doing what I've been saying he's going to do for the last 3 months. The peace negotiation between the United States and Iran is not a peace negotiation, people. Why? Because the free radical in this chemistry set is Israel. They are doing what the hell they want to do. And here are the two primary targets that Israel has. They don't want Iran to remain as Iran, period. They want complete destruction of the country, meaning break it all up and come back again and start from scratch. And they want to take out Hezbollah and all the proxies that they support. Those are their two primary goals, mission-wise. And anytime the United States says, hey, we are going to negotiate some type of settlement, Israel has acted a fool militarily. This has happened now, not once, not twice, but 3 times, basically every month since we've started this, okay? So understand, Trump is now frustrated because he realizes he can't keep Netanyahu on the leash. It's the other way around. Netanyahu has put the leash on Trump. He is the one that had him do Operation Midnight Hammer. He is the one that convinced him to step into this landmine. And here we are, right? And now Trump's frustration as he realizes that he, once again, I'll say it again, painted himself into a corner, a diplomatic corner with a military brush. He has no way out. And even when he tries to find a way out, Israel is there to slam the door and say, stay in there. Stay in there. So, I wish I could sit there and be more optimistic. But ladies and gentlemen, this is why I have been adamant since the Saturday morning we woke up and this started. And I said, oh my gosh, this is the worst case scenario. Because we self-selected it. It'd be different had Iran attacked other countries in the area and we went to their defense. You have a completely different way to go about strategy and how to negotiate. But because we decided to do this off the high of Venezuela, because, all colored people's countries are the same, apparently.
Yeah.
This is what's going to happen. And here we are.
So let me ask you this about Bibi. We know his aim has always been the destruction of anyone who poses any kind of threat, whether it's realistic or not, to Israel, right? He has said he wants to push Palestinians into the sea and just clear it. Like, you know, that's his aim. Well, he's not. Is he content to just continue fighting on to infinity? Like, what is his end game here? Because it would be really difficult, right, to wipe out entire populations of humans. He's tried, right? He's trying.
I think this is a very, very valid point. What is his overall objective? His overall objective is to remain in power first, right? And then deal with any and all takers that threaten Israel. I do believe fundamentally he is trying to protect Israel, but he wants to be the one to do it. And he wants to do it from what he believes is a strength of position, of strength position. Meaning, let's remember, Netanyahu's brother was killed, okay, by the same people he's going after. Let's also remember, number two, that man was about to get removed from office by the Israeli Supreme Court. People forget that man was guilty of corruption of the highest order, and he was about to get yanked. October 7th bailed him out, right? And so he has maintained Israel in a war footing, suspending elections and all the things that they deem necessary to maintain power. The other thing that I think people need to understand is Israel can only continue to do this as long as the United States provides the resources to do it. But this is where the lobbying comes in, the AIPACs and everything that you've heard. This is where it comes into play, because despite what Congress has been saying, even going back to Gaza, have they shut off funding shut off funding and supplying Israel? No. As a matter of fact, they are quietly going the other way with the United States Israeli Defense Cooperation Initiative, or whatever the heck they're proposing right now in Congress. And if you don't know about that, ladies and gentlemen, that will make Israel an even closer ally than any country the United States deals with, to include the NATO countries and Canada and Mexico, our neighbors. That's what they're proposing. So this is a long-term strategic project that Netanyahu wants, that many Israeli prime ministers have begged for, and they're close to getting, because they have someone finally in the White House, going all the way back to Truman, that they can manipulate, and that's Donald John Trump.
So I was looking up the odds, like where we are, and Kalshi, I think, some of these ship markets have the odds of us, having some sort of peace in Iran or some deal with Iran at like 30% by the end of June.
Oh,
I mean, that's 4 weeks away. So what's the Bobby prediction market say? The Bobby Jones market.
It's interesting. Everybody's trying to handicap this. I'm gonna tell you right now, it's not happening in June. It's not happening in June. I'll tell you why. Because in this extended peace, ceasefire, whatever, both sides are rearmed. They both rearmed, right? And so instead of one side giving the other a major concession, they'd rather bomb the hell out of each other. They made that abundantly clear. So if you're doing that, June, this month, this is going to be the whole tit for tat thing. Now, go ahead, everybody, write it down, put it on your calendar, circle it. You'll hear on Friday to Saturday that we're close to a deal. Markets will open. Iran will say, no, we're not. Markets will tank by Tuesday. This is what's happening. Then maybe about, midway through the month, people are sick and tired of it. They'll have a real deal that's supposedly actually being negotiated, and Israel will bomb Hezbollah, or Israel will go into Syria or Lebanon, wherever they want, they will do it. And we will restart this cycle all over again. To me, this will not change until the world economy is brought to its knees. And the world will basically say, let Iran have their nuclear whatever. We don't care. Just let us monitor it. Basically trying to reestablish the JCPOA. Only difference is now Iran will sit there and say, and if you don't follow us, we will close the strait so quick, it'll give you whiplash. That's the difference. Because now that is Iran's nuclear deterrent, the Strait of Hormuz. We created it for them, and they will use it, and there will be no regime change. There will be no government turnover, just like every other nation that is a nuclear power. We messed around and gave them a proverbial nuke by doing this, and these clowns still don't recognize it.
So, look, this is an interesting place, right? And Iran has gone from being a real pariah state, the massive underdog, the sort of pain in the ass of everyone in the region, to being one of 3 or 4 world powers, right? They hold a lot of cards here. And so I'm wondering if you think there is any, and I'm being like Pollyanna here for sure, but if there is any moderating force to having that sort of power in your hands, right? If Iran suddenly is like, oh, we have a ton of power, we have negotiating power, we have a seat at the table. Now we can actually talk about the needs that we have. We can maybe structure deals differently. We can ask for what we need without having to strap suicide bombs on everywhere. We will if we need to, but we don't need to.
Well, it's funny you mention that, Sam, because the old regime, before they were all bombed into oblivion, was literally pivoting towards that direction. Right? There was a ban on nuclear enrichment from the Ayatollah himself. You saw after the JCPOA was signed, while Obama was still in office, the attempt to reestablish international markets, etc. They were trying to go on a glide slope where they would be respected in the international community, just like anybody else. China's a communist country, but they are very well respected in the international community. That was part of the thought process. Trump blew all that up. Now you're dealing with a younger, more radical group that's leading that, by the way, the Ayatollah had his entire family and bloodline pretty much wiped out. Okay. Now, the thing that gives me hope is, the Iranian parliament, the people who have spoken, who have basically tried to lead negotiations, seem to be rational, right? They do realize they have to establish something long-term that's sustainable. And this is why the world, everyone outside the United States and Israel, has gone through and started doing backdoor talks with them. That got a lot of publicity about 2 months ago, but no one's really talked about it since. That does not mean the conversations have stopped. So do I believe that there can be some sort of normalization of relations with, Iran and the rest of the world? Yes. But, and here's the huge but, don't expect that with the United States, because Iran's going to demand restitution, which I don't blame them. I really don't. And is there anything that makes you think Donald Trump is going to sign off on sending any money of reparations to Iran? Because that's what it's going to take. And I don't see him doing it, because he will see himself losing, and he would have lost. But it's something about cutting a check that Donald Trump has always hated, going back to his casino days, right?
And contractors,
right?
Days. Remember that?
But that's what's going to need to happen in order for those ties to be reestablished. Naira was on with us a couple of weeks ago, and she kind of hinted at the same thing. Yeah. We got to be able to give an off-ramp to Iran, and it may come at the cost of an off-ramp for the United States. Meaning, Sun Tzu talks about it: give your enemy a way out to end conflict. In order for that to happen, I think Trump is going to have to take the L. He's going to have to take the loss.
Well, that would be their off-ramp, right? And I feel like, and this is kind of goes back to my question about Bibi Netanyahu. What off-ramp is he? He's not a Trump, right? He's not an idiot.
I agree.
And so it seems as if he is absolutely willing to just continue aggression for the sake of aggression forever.
This is the difficult part about the peace process to me. Even if we get over the hurdle of Donald Trump capitulating something to calm Iran down, who's going to check Israel?
Yeah.
And if you don't check them, and this is the fundamental diplomatic question that the United States of America as a nation has to ask themselves, will you continue to unabashedly support Israel? Between Gaza and Iran, two major incidents here in the last 2 years, right? American attitudes towards the government of Israel have changed.
Yeah.
Does Congress continue to budget money to send weapons to Israel if they do not do anything to maintain a negotiated peace between the United States and Iran? See, now we're talking about sitting at the big boys' tables, ladies and gentlemen. This is where real diplomacy takes place. And when you have a cabinet full of lackeys, as I'm calling it, the lackeyification of the federal government, this is why we're failing. Because you have to have seasoned diplomats that are subject matter experts that have pre-existing ties with the nations in the region that Iran believes can be trusted at face value, that can speak power and truth to Israel to make this work. And if you have not noticed, we're just putting anybody in any spot as long as they've pledged loyalty to Donald Trump throughout the federal government. So how is this going to work? How is this delegate negotiation work? I don't know. We're going to get into some of these clowns that are being hired here in a second, but there's a ripple effect.
Well, and look, I think it's not just about having experts. It's about having anybody with credibility, right, when the other side can read credibility or stature or authority or anything like that. And that's a great transition to what I think we should really be talking about. But first, I want to read a couple of comments because these are great. Jessica B says, "How much good faith can you have with negotiating with a negotiating table that keeps bombing you each time you try to get a deal now? There's no good faith by this administration and an ideological situation." That is spot on, Jessica B. And Maxine says, "Trump won't even help us, his citizens." Exactly.
Also true.
Patty Kutch, "Why can't you be president, Bobby?"
Because I try to have integrity. I mean, because right now the job description, woo,
man,
it's not conducive to trying to maintain some morals the way they're executing. No. And that kind of leads into the bigger problem here. So if you look, you guys have kind of hit on this in the chat. We're on fire everywhere, internationally, domestically, right? But what people are not talking about, we're about to get right there, Carl. What people are not really talking about is the people who are selected and put in these very vital positions that are supposed to be leading these various aspects of U.S. Governance. What we are seeing is what happens when you remove career subject matter experts and put in flunkies that cut a check to donate to Trump or talk praises about Trump on TV and this, that, and the other. It is an absolute 5-alarm fire. Okay. The latest and greatest, specifically with my, heart and soul, the U.S. Navy and the Department of Defense. This clown, and I mean literally, if I put green and white makeup on him, he is the Joker without the cunning. This clown has basically continued to reach into the promotion list and just pull out, I'm going to be honest, women and black people. That's any ally of diversity at any point in their careers. Okay. I mean, blatant racism. And here's the thing. I'm going to say this. I'm going to say this to people. You know what the difference is between a bitch and a hoe? A hoe lets you know exactly what they're about and what they're doing. They will walk up and down the strip and be like, this is what I am. A bitch moves in silence behind closed doors. That's why Hegseth's a bitch. Okay? He doesn't have the testicular fortitude to look these people in the eye on the promotion list and say, I'm pulling you out because you're black. Just say it. Say it. Because we're now getting to the point, these are people that I personally know. Okay? And this failed Army major is not only reaching in and pulling women who have gone through all sorts of hell to get there, black people, minorities who have gone through all sorts of hell to get to that point. But then, and this is the cherry on top of his shit Sunday, going out of his way trying to promote one of his boys, a Navy SEAL that never had command, trying to make him an admiral when literally the first prerequisite of becoming an admiral is you've had to have command. I've had command. That Navy SEAL is not. And he tried to get him promoted at the promotion board to a 1-star admiral with no experience. That right there, that behavior, which he accused minorities and women of getting, he's actually executing. This is unbelievable that in any sphere of American military history, this is happening. But it doesn't just stop at the military. Our current new acting director of national intelligence was over here running Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac because he cut a check. He has no intel experience whatsoever. This is who they picked to replace Tulsi Gabbard as of today. And if you notice, these are acting positions. That's important, ladies and gentlemen, because that means he's trying to sidestep Senate confirmation. And you got GOP senators like, what in the actual hell is this? What is this? And Tom, you're right. It's not just promotions. People who are already in the seat as admirals and generals that have shown subject matter expertise have been removed from their positions. You go to the Joint Chiefs of Staff's webpage, ladies and gentlemen, their official webpage. It's like a still shot from the 1930s. As far as who's running the American military, which here's the thing you need to understand: the demographics of today's military overwhelmingly disproportionate to the population minority. So it's like, we need you to be cannon fodder, but we cannot rely on you to develop the skill set, the mentality and intelligence and the square jaw and the straight hair and the blue eyes to be a leader.
And look,
it's insanity.
It's insanity. And look, that, you know, their whole spiel is like, well, it only looks like we're firing or holding back Black people and women, when in fact this is just a meritocracy. But per reporting that cites Senate figures, roughly 60% of the senior officers Hegseth has fired or sidelined are female or Black, right? He has fired or sidelined nearly 36 senior officers since taking office. And it's worth noting that officers of color and women are 43% of the 1.3 million U.S. troops. Exactly.
He wants the white supremacist dream of telling minorities what to do, and they just do it, and they're put on a pedestal. And meanwhile, he's telling women to go back to the kitchen. And these are not my words. He put it in his book, right? And he's executing. Never mind the fact that Iran right now is showing us the warfare that you dream about, the Sands of Iwo Jima starring John Wayne. That ain't it, bro. That ain't it anymore. You need people that can think, that can put together strategies. Asymmetric warfare. We keep calling it asymmetric warfare, but Ukraine and Iran are showing us, no, this is warfare today. You better have people who are cybersecurity specialists, who are air defense, all of these things that don't require you being able to do 200 push-ups, right? Don't get me wrong. There's a place for that. Warfare is always going to have a manual kinetic component to it. But this right here, your mind and the perspectives that different people with different backgrounds bring to the table, that used to be the secret sauce of the American military. Going all the way back to the Revolutionary War that we are trying to celebrate, you have people from all walks of life that brought something different to the table. And if you really study military history like I have, these people literally won wars, from the Navajo code talkers just speaking the way they speak, right? To the Tuskegee Airmen who went through HBCUs to get educated and then use what they learned there to take inferior planes and shoot down a goddamn German jet when it was debuted. I can go all day. If we just stick with this model that he thinks exists, as far as just white men doing it, America does not exist today. It's a done experiment. It's done. Specifically, the Civil War would have killed it. So this is unbelievable to watch, because it shows a blatant lack of understanding and knowledge of American military history implemented by a white Christian nationalist. Full stop. Full stop.
Look, here's the thing. Hegseth talks about discipline, right? He's a drunk who's cheated on his wife.
Beat him.
Right. He has no discipline, but I get the sense that his mental capacity is so diminished that he views discipline as the ability to do multiple push-ups and in a minute, right? Like,
I'll take it a step further. Sam, I'll take it a step further.
Go.
He views discipline as I'm the guy in charge. I tell you what to do. I do what I want. The same dude talking about discipline is taking joy rides in Apache helicopters with Kid Rock. Okay?
Oh my God.
But and we're not going to prosecute those people or hold them to account, because guess what? It were white men who were doing all of that. And that's cool. That's cool, because we're good old boys and that's what we do. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, a 4-star admiral like Admiral Halsey, who's done everything the right way, is told, hey, you better sign off on us indiscriminately just shooting people and killing them in boats in the Caribbean, or that's your ass. He's like, I'm out. You see what I'm saying? When you see the discrepancy of what's expected of people who look like me and the standard that we have to have, and more importantly, how we have to stand consistently on business when these other clowns are taking joyrides in helicopters, beating their wives, DUIing, and still getting goddamn promoted. You want to know why I'm pissed? That's why. That's why. Listen, I'm not asking Pete Hegseth to do anything that I was not asked to do as a damn naval officer. Okay? I'm asking him to do what is right. And apparently he has a problem with it. And then here's the thing. He lacks the testicular fortitude to tell those officers whose careers he just ended why they ended. Have the balls to say why. That's why I call him a bitch. That's why. Because at least the hoe would tell you why.
Yeah. So what happens? And like, look, it's so disheartening, man, because these idiots are, look, this, you know, the DNI, this dude, if I can find him here, this dude has no background in intelligence, right? This is, and I feel like this entire administration is essentially a form of white nationalist performance art. Right? It is just all for show. It is all for social media engagement. It is all for some kind of triggering. It is all for all of that, because that's where their money and power rests. But these people have real jobs to do now, and the DNI has a real and very serious responsibility to keep us safe to a huge degree, right? Hegseth is absolutely failing, and this is the thing we circle back to in the very beginning of this. When you're concerned about everyone being just white,
right?
You've destroyed the greatest civilization.
Yes,
the biggest empire we've ever had.
I agree. What's in
about 18 months?
You know, Sam, what's ironic about this is they want to get this room full of just white men calling the shots. Okay. And they are creating groupthink, which is dangerous in a military room. But is it really groupthink when no one in the room is actually thinking? This is the fundamental question that I have. Because the people that they're selecting, as we just highlighted, have no idea what the hell they're doing. The new director of national intelligence does not even know how to handle classified information. Why would he? Why would he? He's going to have to be shown the basics of intel so he can be over, what, 17 different intel organizations? Make it make sense to me. It does not. Again, meanwhile, back at the ranch, you take the time out of your busy schedule and an active war as Secretary of Defense to go strike names off of a list that you shouldn't even be looking at. Shouldn't even be looking at, you know?
No. Well, so two things. First of all, he's also turned the Pentagon press room into a SCIF, right?
Yes. Yes.
So that's another big thing that happened.
So for those who don't know what a SCIF is, a secure compartmental information facility, basically it's a classified space where they can talk about classified stuff. And you may say, okay, that's not a problem, but the press is not allowed to be in a classified area, right? So he's effectively going around U.S. court judgment saying the Pentagon press corps has a right to be in the Pentagon in the press room. It's like, okay, cool, we'll turn it into a SCIF. Bye. It's
like saying, well, you can't walk there. Well, yeah, I can walk there. That's the place where I walk. No, but floor is lava, man.
Yeah.
Like, sorry.
Right. So that's what they're doing. That's how he's trying to get away, because the Pentagon leaks like a faucet turned on, because the people that are there know that this is wrong. They know what they're witnessing is wrong. For you to take names off a list that people have worked for those people, worked with those people, and you don't think that there is a residual effect on that to morale, then you are definitely a bigger idiot than I already give you credit for. And he does not see that. He believes that he has the look, that because he can PT, that's all that matters, which explains to me why he was a terrible officer as an Army major. Terrible, just terrible. Terrible. This is not me saying this. These are people who were in the United States Army with this man in the National Guard. Look, at the end of the day, the damage that is being done to the United States military is going to take years to recover from, because what you've done is systemically wiped out a layer of the upper chain of command, and you have backfilled it with people who aren't qualified. It's almost like it's this DEI thing that he keeps talking about. Only difference is we don't call it DEI when it applies to white men. We just call it failing upward. But that's what's happening. The whole administration, from Trump to Hegseth, these people will just keep failing upward. And now we have a dude that's supposed to be over home loans in charge of our national intelligence.
Well, and this is, I think this is why we always come back to this. Because this story is really about lack of expertise, right? Our failures right now are because we don't value experts or expertise. We have men like Pete Hegseth who are clutching so firmly to such dead soil, right? That they have to fire the scapegoat. They have to get rid of anybody who might have a leg up on them, and almost everybody has a leg up on them. So
yeah, let me put it this way. When I see Hegseth talk, especially when he does his little press briefings where he tries to lecture the media, I think to myself, you know, the scene from the movie Anchorman, Will Ferrell, well, they just put whatever, they put the little question mark at the end of his teleprompter and he reads it that way. I feel as though his staff gives him his talking points and he just sticks with it without thinking. That's why he quoted Pulp Fiction. That's why we get the inaccurate casualty numbers and stuff like that. It's almost as though he is a parrot for something else greater or more sinister at the Pentagon. And they are doing everything they can to re-indoctrinate the Department of Defense while they can, because they realize the window is short. So whether it's talking about wiping out Iran and dealing with what Israel wants to do, this and the other, Hegseth has not been fired because they have a definitive purpose for trying to turn America's military against its people and just pro whoever's in charge. That's what scares me. That's what truly scares me.
So how do we build back? And does it take just one or two or a handful of remarkable leaders? And where do they come from? Who is involved enough to step in and lead us out of this bullshit? And not from a political standpoint, but it's going to take a cultural rebuilding in the military, right?
Well, I'll be honest with you. It's going to take a course recalibration. So it starts with the midterm elections, where Congress can not just rubber stamp whatever promotion list is thrown in front of them. Because understand, when you get selected for flag officer, general, or admiral, that thing goes in front of Congress for final approval. And people like Tommy Tuberville has used that as a political ploy to get some bill passed, whatever, in the past, right? But what Congress needs to do, what they need to really focus in on, is being the organization that's like, did this son of a bitch over here touch this list? And if so, why? Right. They need to be able to get the original list from the boards when they do it. That's number one. Number two, when you go through and take a look at the damage that Hegseth has done, it needs to be bipartisan and it needs to be unified. You know, when you look at major course corrections in American history, these were not things that barely passed. They were major statements. For example, the Emancipation Proclamation was a major statement. Brown Board versus Board of Education was a 9-0 ruling. They knew the importance of making it unanimous, right?
Mhm.
These things that are unanimous, the American people are like, okay, obviously this is how people feel about it. We need to make that course correction. So when the House and Senate Armed Service Committees, after the midterms, gets their new assignments, who's on that committee, whatever, the first thing they need to do is go through the actual promotions list that have happened in the last 2 years with a fine-tooth comb. Those who got struck need to be goddamn restored, and then have people buy into back into the quality and the merit-based promotion process that we have. Until then, I would doubt everything. If I was still in the military, if I was still in the Navy right now, I'd be like, I don't know, who knows who's going to get promoted? Don't matter anymore. It's just whoever Hegseth likes. That phrase, whoever Hegseth likes.
And uncertainty isn't the best thing in the military, is it?
Yeah. No, it's not, because you deal with uncertainty in your job, but you need to have certainty in the people who are leading you. You should not have to ask them were they qualified to be there, which is ironic because Hegseth is doing this because he's saying that's what people were asking. No one was asking that crap before he came in as Secretary of Defense, because those of us who served and actually, I don't know, Pete, promoted and got command, those of us who did that understand how rigorous it is to get selected for command. I mean, but he didn't know. He wasn't let in the club. He's still on the outside trying to get into VIP. I don't know. He can't do it.
He can't do it. Couple of comments from the audience. M. Edson says Tom Nichols' book, The Death of Expertise, is a good read about your points. I think about that book all the time, M. Edson. And that was early. Like that came out a while ago. It was a great read. Patrick says maybe need someone from the Defense Department, state establishment to come in and fix this. Someone with some stature, nonpartisan.
I agree.
This is an interesting question, and I have a sort of follow-up to this. This is from Jessica B. Bobby, do you think that Hegseth could go rogue and do a military coup against the government if indoctrinated enough? I don't know that he really needs to. The government has already been couped by Trump to some degree. But I wanna go ahead, because I have a follow-up.
Well, let me answer that first. Based on the people who I know, and I know a lot of people, and based on what I've seen, if Hegseth tried that, no, it'd get knocked down. No, because to be honest with you, these people don't want to follow that man to the grocery store if they're starving right now. They can't stand him. Yeah, they have nicknames for him, Keg's Breath and Sec Bro and all this stuff. Go on Reddit sometime and go into a military chat and see what these cats are saying. They hate him because they know he's pompous and they know that he doesn't care about them. Like I said, I knew everything I need to know about Hegseth when it comes to dealing with the forces, the people, when he held an award ceremony when freaking Gerald R. Ford came back from the longest deployment since Vietnam. Them cats wanted to leave. He was like, no, we're going to have an award ceremony so I can peacock around here and get good video footage. Blah, blah. It wasn't about the sailors. It was about him. Yeah, that's all you need to know. That's all you need to know.
You remember a couple of years ago when Boeing planes started falling from the sky and engines were falling off wings and stuff. There was a fascinating article that tied this structural changes at Boeing over the past 10 to 20 to 30 years
after the merger.
And in which their pensions were creating tons and tons and tons of costs, right? And the older employees were getting higher salaries. They just culled them. They just cut them. And so they had this lack of expertise, right? They had a lack of culture from the top. They had a lack of trainees. They had a lack of trainers. And then you get a mediocre product at the end. I shudder to think about that happening in the military with all of these senior experts and career officers leaving or being forced out because they're Black, they're women, or because they can't stomach what they're being ordered to do.
I'll take it a step further. I'll take it a step further, Sam. So it's like this cord being lit on fire on both ends, because we're focusing on the upper chain of command, the generals, the admirals, but over here on the other end, where he's going after the West Point, Annapolis, Colorado Springs Service Academy kids gutting them and saying who they can talk to and what they can read. That's happening. You're sitting there burning this candle of leadership at the beginning, at the cradle of officership of the military, and at the end. He's burning it both ways, where basically I have a newly indoctrinated force as quickly as possible. This is why he said the stuff that he said at West Point and Annapolis the last 2 years when he's giving the graduation speeches. This is why he's going out of his way he went out of his way when he first took over to put certain people in positions of leadership that deal specifically with officer development, not just at the service academies, but when you look at these certain training positions and all this other kind of stuff like art, trade doc and all that. It's by design. The problem, and this is what I don't know what they're going to do about this. The people that they're putting in these positions are not nearly as qualified as the people that were in the positions. So you're telling me, because their number one qualification is they're white and they look good in their uniform, is we're going to have the same capabilities in a war, in an area of warfare, or just the sphere of war itself being changed in real time. We're watching it. We're watching it right now. Yes. We over here now trying to build more drones. Finally, right? Some of us 10 years ago knew we needed to do that based on what we knew about Iran at the time. Totally. But we were stuck to this archaic power projection model that Iran is pissed on. Ukraine has shown Russia. I mean, for those who don't know, Russia is losing the war in Ukraine. That is why you're not seeing much about it in the media. They're losing to Ukraine. Not stalemate. They're losing. Ken Harbaugh's over there right now. They're losing.
They are losing, and they will lose. And they will lose, by many accounts, they will lose everything, right? They won't just lose this war. They're losing tens, hundreds of thousands of their young men in this war. They will lose everything. And this is what, this is kind of a full circle thing, because what you're talking about with the lack of expertise and actual leadership, Russia, when Russia went into Ukraine the second time in this current war, they were like, this is going to be a 4-day thing, a march to Kiev. Yeah. And we're just going to take it, and it's going to be great, and everyone's going to support us and all this. And everyone was like, wow, the Russian military, they march, they have all these tanks. They're great, right? But their logistics, Bobby, you taught me about logistics. Their logistics sucked.
Terrible.
Their troops sucked. They were poorly trained. The military, turns out, was just riddled with grift. That the ordnance, the ammo, their guns, their trucks, their troops, all of it sucked. And you remember that whole line of tanks and jeeps that just ran out of gas on the way.
Just stalled out.
Yeah, so that's the military that we are going to get.
Well, I mean, all of the generals and admirals in the Russian military basically have to be politically approved, right? And you see what their readiness looked like. Ukraine was like, we're here to kick ass and take names, right? Yeah, that's what they made that very declarative in the first 72 hours of that war. Okay, here's the thing. America, obviously, we still have a great military capability,
of course,
when directed properly. If I could take a time machine and go back to February 27th, I'd be like, don't do this. Don't do it. And I know the chairman and them, they have to try to tell the president no in a respectful manner. I'm like, no, you need to tell them. This is the difference between someone who, and this is no real knock on General Kane, but it is a knock on General Kane. He wasn't qualified to be in the position. He never had command of a combatant command, or he was never in charge of the Air Force. He was never a 4-star. He's disqualified. People need to understand that they had to file a waiver, and Congress, Republican-led, had to approve it to give him a 4-star and put him in a position that he was ill prepared to take based on the requirements of the Goldwater-Nichols Act of 1986. I'm just telling you. That being said, he did not probably feel like he could flat out say it. Now, you take another, like a General Colin Powell, he'd be like, you break it, you buy it. Like he told Bush that when we went and did Desert Storm. He's like, look, the goal is to get Kuwait out. If you go into Iraq, you break it, you buy it, and I won't have a part of it. He said that. Schwarzkopf agreed with them. And what happened? The most decisive military win in the last 50 years on this planet happened. That's not a coincidence. Oh, and by the way, it was the black guy that led that.
But Bobby,
who by the way, at Arlington where he was buried, they had him highlighted. They took away those highlights of where he was buried. I mean, cannot. Oh yeah, that was part of that initial sweep where they removed anything that had to be race, and they used AI and just took out Tuskegee, the 442nd Japanese battalion out of World War II, which one of our chat people talked about. They wiped all them people out, and then after the uproar about it, they had to go back and manually restore where they're buried on the National Register. It's insanity. It's insanity. But this is what we're dealing with.
Just like I can't imagine a more boring and banal and mediocre country than one run by people like Pete Hegseth.
Yeah, well, I mean, for those white supremacists and white nationalists out there, I will say this. This is close to what you want, especially from a military standpoint. This is close to what you want from a federal government standpoint. The only person of color I want to say in the cabinet is the HUD director, and that's the de facto black person's position, the housing urban development person. Right. You got everything you want.
Got urban in the name.
Right, obviously. Exactly. So you have white in the cabinet positions, and you have white in your Joint Chiefs of Staff. You have white pretty much everywhere you look as far as command authority of America's military. Let's see how that's working. We're paying
an experiment, right?
Well, right. Well, let's just take a look and let's tally this up real quick. Let's start internationally. We've had conflicts in 8 different countries since President Trump came in with Hegseth. We currently have the Strait of Hormuz shut off, the Persian Gulf shut off. Our allies in 9 different countries just in that region have been bombed and are like, what the hell? We have completely lost influence in the South China Sea. No one's talking about that because, that's also going on. Oh, and the Red Sea is a problem as well there too. By the way, our NATO allies won't even let us pull in the port or fly over their airspace. So that's just the synopsis of the military aspect of having that 100%. Yep. 100% all-American, good old white supremacy right there in the front with Hegseth leading the way. Okay. Now you go domestically. How much you paying for gas, ladies and gentlemen? I'll ask the question that Ronald Reagan asked in 1980. Are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? Are you? Are you? Because if you are, then be happy. Your experiment is working. But from what I'm seeing, Texas is about to turn blue. Iowa is about to turn blue. I mean, things that I never thought I'd see again in my lifetime are happening because people are that broke, that hurt. And to be completely honest, they feel like the White House, full of the white people, do not give a damn about white people. This is phenomenal. And we're not even talking about the immigration and all of that and how we are suffering, and no one's reporting on this too, a brain drain. I personally know people who have left this country that had PhDs and advanced degrees because they came here because they studied to get it. They're going back home. That's a problem when your medical field is already undermanned and 2 out of 3 are talking about leaving the medical field in the next 3 years.
I mean, and you know why they came in the first place? They came because of opportunity.
Exactly.
Not anymore.
So when you go out of your way to remove the things that gave America the economical advantage, the military advantage, the soft power that it enjoyed for 80 years, when you go out of your way to remove it and strip it, and you talk, the first thing you do is talk bad about your allies, you tariff the world, you sit there and this is what really blows my mind, Sam, is every time something like this is happening where a new policy comes out, they refer to that crappy book, Art of the Deal. That Trump didn't even write. It was ghostwritten. When they do that and you go to Alabama and tell those farmers Art of the Deal. Or Mississippi, Art of the Deal. Or Nebraska that's about to be bankrupt because of the way their constitution is set up, Art of the Deal. And go on social media, ladies and gentlemen, and just Google the Trump regret. Just put that in there and see these people crying because they don't have SNAP. They don't have health care. They're making decisions whether or not do I put gas in my car or do I buy a gallon of milk to try to make something that I can sustain myself for the end of the week. This is happening. And the thing you can't do, you can't blame people that look like me. You can't blame people that are brown. You can't blame people. There's only one demographic. If you want to play this game, white supremacists who say this is what you wanted. This is what you said, Heritage Foundation. This is what you say, people like Richard Spencer and Nick Fuentes. I can go down the list. And now even they're bailing.
Yeah, well, and you also, but you still have people who do know better. Scott Sen, all these idiots towing the line, saying stuff like, well, people are spending way more. That shows a lot of enthusiasm and positivity about the economy.
Mm-hmm.
No, they need to purchase things, and shit's expensive right now. That's why they're spending more, you dumbass.
They're trying to survive. And the thing that really blows my mind is how they reference the stock market when they good and well know 90% of Americans do not have stock. It's like the 10% that's making money. What about the other 90%? And here's my thing. I honestly believe black, white, I believe our brothers and sisters across the country, I don't give a damn who you voted for, are struggling. Struggling. But when I think of the genesis of these problems, and it's tied to this philosophy of I will endure and suffer whatever I can as long as those people don't get something. And now all of us are starving. Now all of us are struggling. Now all of us are suffering because of that mentality that started all the way back in the colonies in the 1600s. And we're still on this BS in 2026. And now I'm watching online people crying because they cannot afford to buy baby food for their babies.
Yeah.
But they voted for Trump 3 times.
You can't afford school. You can't afford groceries. You can't afford gas. Farms are closing. Farmers are going bankrupt. And what you get is a war. And you have to say, thank you. This is delicious.
I mean, this has happened, ladies and gentlemen, in less than 2 years. Less than 2 years, we have seen an uptick in war, which he promised to keep us out of, and an economy that basically says, if you are not elite, we do not give a damn about you. But most importantly, the things needed to survive, healthcare. If you're a senior citizen right now and you had a set income, retirement income, there's no way in hell you're making ends meet now. And we're seeing these stories of moms and dads who prided themselves on being independent, having to be taken back in by their children who are already struggling to maintain their family unit. Yeah. This is what bigotry will give you. Universal suffering. You target one group, but if you play it out to its natural conclusions, eventually you become part of the group and you suffer. If you think I'm making this up, go look at history and go look around the world. We were supposed to be different. I'm not saying we're perfect, but we had the audacity to put on paper, we the people. That's the difference between America. Everybody's like, well, this happens on when black people talk about slavery, it happened everywhere. Yeah, but we were the first ones to put on paper, on parchment, that we're different. The 250 years ago thing that y'all want to celebrate so desperately, we put on paper that we're different. And they knew they weren't living up to it. They hoped by the time you got to 250, we were doing that. And what are we doing? We're going backwards. We're going backwards. And for the life of me, Sam, and I'll get off the soapbox, for the life of me, how much suffering of your neighbor must you watch before you get pissed enough to do something about it? That's the fundamental question that I put out to the chat. At some point, we got to sit there and say, this is enough's enough. Enough's enough. I just cannot imagine being a young family trying to struggle to put food on the table with young kids right now. But that's a reality that's happening all over the place. It's amazing.
We should wrap up soon, but I had one sort of turn it back to national security and sort of our global spot in the world and all this kind of stuff. And it's something that hit me the other day that, Putin is a chaos agent. Bibi is a bit of a chaos agent himself. Mm-hmm. Putin sees the United States as a sort of mortal and very personal kind of enemy, right? He came up Cold War era, hating the United States, hating what we stood for, feeling very bitter about our perceived victory in the Cold War. Wouldn't this be the best time to just do some terrorism here for a country like Putin? Because we have the director of national intelligence is an insurance man with no intelligence experience or intelligence. We've got nobody is here ready for what could happen. If you wanted to take the United States down, it would be pretty easy right at the moment. This scares the hell out of me.
Listen, I not only agree with you, I think every move that President Trump has made has fundamentally made the country less safe. When you remove people who have dedicated careers to protection, it is very, very hard to replace that. It's one of those professions where experience matters. You can be as determined, you can be as gung-ho, you can be like, I can study I want to be the best. That's great. But until you stand a watch, there's nothing to prepare you. There's nothing to prepare you. And as you get more experience, now you develop a thought process. Then you see the different philosophies and how they affect. To protect over 330 million people, right? Many of them located abroad in countries all over the world. And you're supposed to be the world's superpower. And instead of thinking about things in that manner, you think who cut the biggest donation check, who has defended me on CNN, or who has provided kickbacks to my family, right? If that is what is happening, then we are in the worst shape, Sam. We are. And the painful, and I mean painful lessons we learn, Beirut, 9/11, I can go down the list, have now exited the pattern. You know, like we talked about Joe Kent, the national security advisor, who, borderline white supremacist, many people believe, but you cannot mess with his credentials, right?
Right.
When someone like him leaves, that should make everybody like, wait, he was one of the dudes they wanted too, and he actually knows what the hell he's doing. It's very dangerous, Sam. And the number one job of the president of the United States is to protect the United States and its citizens. And you cannot tell me, no one who watches him, who sees him tweet at 2 o'clock in the morning, no one can sit there and tell me that they believe Donald Trump has made America safer. No one, not if they're rational.
No. Well, I mean, I think in the short term, we're all here for each other.
Yep.
And that's where we got to be. And we have to have some solidarity, and we got to get to the polls, and we have to vote, and we have to support candidates who support democracy. And we have to support people like Bobby Jones. Everyone, you got to go to his Substack. Bobby, your morning briefs are incredible. Your work for Midas is so stellar. It's always like first watch kind of stuff for me. So I hope everyone in the audience, obviously all of you who want to vote for Bobby for president, are already subscribing to Navshad. But if you aren't, go subscribe to Bobby Jones on Substack. It's worth it.
No, I appreciate the kind words. And mind you, I'm just taking a look at things every day and seeing what the big picture is. Because believe me, there's tons of news out there.
Yeah.
The other thing that I will tell y'all too is, if you do write me on my Substack, I do my best to write you back. So if you have questions, there are no dumb questions when it comes to this stuff. Those of us, and I'm just one of many, especially as you can find on Substack, that have experience, ask us questions. The education process needs to happen because the citizenry needs to know why this stuff matters, why people are yelling at each other in Congress, why the president making that statement had this reaction in Europe. We got to talk about it.
Yeah. Ask questions. Everyone, man, I love this hour. This is always one of my favorite hours of the week. Thank you, Bobby. And thank you all out there. Man, the chat. These guys are the best. When we
No, thanks, chat. Seriously, it's awesome.
Yeah, repost this when we post it, for God's sakes. Come on. All right. Thank you, Bobby. We'll see you next week.
Thanks, you guys. Thanks.